You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. Folks, this is the official Razorback devotional, as we like to do on Sundays. This is a live stream as well as a podcast where we give our thoughts and opinions. And as mentioned before, I will give my thoughts, and then we'll get into the thoughts of everybody else too here on the podcast itself. But what a game. What a game. Arkansas taking on LSU, falling short, still getting the loss, but losing by a final score of 34-31 down there in Baton Rouge, where I would even make the argument that Arkansas played a lot better than anybody anticipated, myself included. Arkansas gave it about as good of a game as you could ask. They had a lot of really good things, a lot of not so great things. Came down to the wire, but LSU was able to kick the go-ahead field goal to win it, and they move on to go on to 3-0, 2-0 in SEC play, and Arkansas 2-2 now, 0-1 in SEC play. Again, there's a lot of things that we need to dive into for this one and try to go through it all, and all the good and all the bad and everything. So I'll ask it this way. Everyone who's in the comment section, would you rather me start with the positives or the negatives? Because this is a Razorback devotional as it is. So would you rather me go through the negatives and end on a lighter note, or do you think I should go ahead and just go through the good stuff first and then get to the issues that a lot of things took place? So I'll let you guys in the comments section decide what it is you want to do. So, all right, well, I guess we already got that settled. Everyone just jumped in and said the negatives. We'll start with the negatives first. Good call. That's usually how I like to do it. Starting with the negatives. Once again, penalties. Penalties. It just is unfortunate that Arkansas, for the second straight game now, you had 11 penalties in this game. 11 penalties for 69 yards. Nice. But I know that last week when you had, or I guess a week and a half ago, 14 penalties at home, that's even worse because you're at home. In Death Valley, the atmosphere is always going to be extremely increased, and you're going to have a lot of times where the noise level is going to get to you, especially for a lot of these new players, still trying to figure out some of the offense. But 11 penalties just can't happen. Just cannot happen. You had too many false starts, because that's the thing is, like, if it's penalties that are pass interference calls or holding calls, I don't like them. It's annoying, but it's part of the game. But it's the penalties that are not judgmental calls. It's like the false starts. That's not a judgmental call. Like, everyone knows when you false start, and yet way too many of those. So that right there is once again one of the big negatives that you just have to look at in this game. Another negative that really stuck out to me was red zone stuff. So Arkansas was in the red zone 5 times in this game. Okay, they're in the red zone 5 times in this game against LSU, and they scored on every possession that they were in the red zone. So when they were in 20 yards, they scored on every possession. So that's good. But what's not good is when you have only 2 touchdowns and then 3 field goals. That's not good, especially when there were 2 different occasions where it's first and goal, I think from the 8-yard line for one, and then the 5-yard line for the other, if I'm not mistaken. But when neither of those turn into touchdowns, that's a problem. You can't go on the road in a hostile environment and expect to win a game like that when you have that many issues going on with penalties and also with not being able to close out in the red zone. When Arkansas came out in the beginning and jumped on LSU, and it was 3-0 at the end of the first quarter, I think it was 6-0, if I'm not mistaken. 6-0 in the second quarter with 6 minutes to go. I had the feeling, I'm like, Arkansas is doing good things, but that's a problem. You can't have those possessions not turning into somehow touchdowns. So that was another bad thing. The red zone. Again, you scored, that's great, but not punching in for touchdowns is a problem. And then also the other one too is the timeouts. The timeouts in the second half. I have a buddy of mine who's one of my good friends who I kind of do it jokingly, but also there's a lot of truth to it, where if a team, regardless if it's his team or somebody else's team, but he hates it when coaches take timeouts in the third quarter. Like he gets irate. And I've always kind of like joked around with him and kind of give him a hard time, but it's like there's a lot of truth to what he says, and why he gets so upset is because in this particular game, you had 3 timeouts. I think all 3 timeouts were gone by like 10 minutes to go in the fourth, something to that extent. And you really could have used them there at the very end. You can't, that's unacceptable. Unacceptable. You cannot have it to where you're killing yourself with not having timeouts, not having those opportunities there to be able to stop the clock when you need it the most, especially in a close game. So that is an unacceptable thing. An unacceptable thing. So, and that was really the biggest stuff that stood out to me was the penalties, the timeout mismanagement, the red zone not being able to get touchdowns, and let's be honest about it, the defense in the second half. Now, the defense in the first half was really good, and I think you got to give also, whether you agree with it or not, you got to give a lot of credit to the LSU offense. The LSU offense is the best in the SEC. They don't really have a lot of weaknesses. Jaden Daniels is a really good quarterback. I know it was between him and KJ for who was being, considered to be the best quarterback in the SEC. And I believe, in my opinion, yesterday we saw the 2 best quarterbacks in the SEC going at it. But Jaden Daniels was really good. Malik Nabors, no relation, unfortunately. But Malik Nabors just tore apart Arkansas, as well as Brian Thomas. Both of them had 130 yards, 133 yards, respectively, and both had 2 touchdowns. So you had 2 wide receivers that were just killing you. Didn't have a 100-yard rusher, but Diggs did get 97 yards. But the defense just could not find any way to get any stops in the second half. But neither did Arkansas's, or I should say LSU's defense get really any stops. No one punted in the second half. Think about that. Either Arkansas or LSU punted in the second half. But I liked what the defense gave you in the beginning, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to hold on. And again, I think it can be both. I think it could be that Arkansas's defense did not play well, but I also think it's that LSU's offense is really freaking good, as we talked about last week. So those were the negatives to me. Those were the negatives. Just you can't have the penalties. You can't have the timeouts. You can't have the red zone opportunities missed. And I don't care who you are. If like Arkansas just got one stop there in the second half, it all changes. And to me, the biggest difference, or at least one of the biggest like plays or moments in this game that when it really went against Arkansas, to be honest, was right before halftime. Arkansas has a 13-3 lead with 48 seconds to go. 48 seconds to go in the first half. Arkansas is leading by 10. And LSU scored 18 seconds later. A touchdown to go 13-10, go to halftime and get the ball back. To me, that was the game. I know that in the second half, you had a lot of back and forth plays, and you could point out, but to me, that was the biggest difference. Because if you were Arkansas and you went into halftime 13-3, you're up by 2 possessions. That offensive juggernaut second half between both teams could have still happened, but Arkansas would have been on the winning end of it. They would have been able to be on the winning side of it, but that's not what happened. You let them score. They got the ball back. They go and score a touchdown within a minute of the second half. You got down, and you never took the lead again. You tied it, but you just never took the lead again. So that was a huge play in this game, and one that I look back upon. But those are the negatives to me. Those are the negatives. And before I jump into the positives too, let's think about this too, folks. Whether you agree with it or not, once again, this is just my opinion, and then we'll get to all your comments. I think that once again, these negatives, as frustrating as it is, and as much criticism needs to be thrown the way of coaches and of players and everything. I'm not saying there's not any criticisms. We 100% should be critical. But they're all, once again, fixable things, and that's what makes it so frustrating. That's what makes it so annoying, is that these are fixable problems that Arkansas can have, that, like, if you just short up the penalties and got the ball, and when you had it in goal line situation, you scored a touchdown, Arkansas wins these games. Those 2 things right there. Cut the penalties in half, and first and goal situation, score a touchdown on both those drives, Arkansas wins. Arkansas wins. LSU was not that much of a better team than Arkansas. They won. Give them credit, 100%. But Arkansas continues to beat themselves in these situations. And it's fixable. It's problematic, but it's fixable. And if Arkansas plays like they did in that game against LSU, the rest of the season, they won't lose many games. They won't lose many games, but that's the problem. So you got that issue happening, and it gets frustrating. Now, looking at the positives, though, let's do some positivity before we get to your comments. Positivity for Arkansas in this game. One, the effort. The effort 100% deserves a lot of praise. I know that it's cliche to say, but it's just the truth. Arkansas had their backs against the wall. Like after that BYU game, going into Death Valley, seeing what LSU did against Mississippi State, I saw it as, all right, well, we're just not going to see much in this one. Like I thought that it'd be blowout city, or at least be really tough for Arkansas to be competitive in the game just because of what we had seen so far. But the effort was there. They didn't roll over and die. They didn't allow the previous game to get to them and to be a problem. They went out there and they gave it their all. They left it all on the field, and that is very commendable. Also, some positives. I thought the offensive line played so much better. So much better. They were giving KJ Jefferson time. They opened up a lot of running lanes for the running backs. Not to say that they were perfect, but vastly improved from what we saw just against BYU. And it's the same team. Like, it's the same guys. So I thought that was, again, something that needs to be commended, was the offensive line playing their best game that they have all year long. Wasn't good enough, but they're getting there and they're getting better. And so I think that's commendable too. And also, but KJ freaking Jefferson, man. I thought KJ settled in and got comfortable for the first time, I felt like, this year. KJ goes 21 of 31, 289 yards and 3 touchdowns. He threw 2 picks, but one of the pick was at the end of the game. And the other one was not a good play. But in the first half, he wouldn't look like himself. But in the second half, you could see him kind of settle in a little bit, where he started doing things and all that. Like, he started making plays and doing some really good things and just settling in and being the KJ with his arm and with his legs that was always really what people expected out of him. And this is kind of a combo deal, but how about Luke Has? That dude is legit. True freshman going down there in the Death Valley, has 6 catches for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is a dude right there. Like, I am so excited about him. I'm excited about him. And honestly, like, and this is kind of the combo thing for both Luke Has and for KJ Jefferson. Remember that play that broke down and Luke Has got behind the coverage and he caught the ball and he ran down the sidelines for a touchdown for a big game? I think it's like 59 yards. To me, if you go back and watch that replay, this is where KJ is. This is why I love KJ in these moments. He's rolling out to the right. And he's trying to find a man. And they're in zone coverage, I believe so, at least with the safety help over top. I actually know it was man-to-man, and they were just kind of looking. But, like, the point is that he had a run. I believe it was the running back. I think it was Dominion that was on the outside. And KJ looks at him and does the hand signal like, hey, come closer, come closer. About to throw it to you. You know, does that while he's rolling out. Well, when he does that, the safety bites and he comes in on him, and that leaves Has going to the distance and throwing it. That is a pro veteran move by KJ Jefferson. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but he knew what he was doing, because if you looked at his eyes, he's looking there and then doesn't even hesitate and throws it over. He knew he could get him to bite. And that was just an absolutely incredible play by him. And Luke Has had a great game too. So the effort was there. I thought the play calling for the most part was fine. Like, I mean, there's always things you're going to second guess, but I thought the play calling was fine. I thought that they did a good job offensively overall. Again, much better than what they have been before. Dominion had 78 yards. KJ had 48 yards. Still not enough rushing yards out of the team overall. But AJ Green, he had 3 carries for no yards. Like, he was a non-factor there. So, but Andrew Armstrong was great. Isaac Teslaw was great. Tyron Broden was great. Those 3 guys were great. So, I mean, that's to me the positives. And I believe that if Arkansas plays like they did against LSU, they'll beat A&M. Easier said than done, I know, because that game's stupid and we see stupid things happen all the time. But if Arkansas plays like they did against LSU down in Arlington this weekend, they're going to beat Texas A&M. I firmly believe that. I believe Arkansas just played the best team in the SEC, at least the SEC West. They did in Death Valley. They did on the road, and they went toe-to-toe with them, and they were right there in the mix. And we'll go, and we're about to go to y'all's comments, so make sure you have those ready, and we'll try to work through them. But this will be my last thing on what I have to say, because I want to address this. I understand fans get upset, after games. We all do. And I don't mind it. If people are emotional and everything. But when people are saying that, because I may have looked at it as hey, that was a better game, a lot of frustrations, but kudos to them coming out, because everyone's you're an acceptant of mediocrity. You just, this is why we suck. You're just average. You're just going to be okay with average and blah, 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 and fire everybody. This is Chad Morris 2.0, all of that. Let me be very clear about this. Any of you that ever say or anything compare Sam Pittman or anything that Sam Pittman has done to Chad Morris, I have no respect for you. Zero. You that's a stupid comment to make. Is Sam Pittman perfect? No. Is Sam Pittman going to be the guy of the future? I don't know. But to even try to compare Sam Pittman to Chad Morris is the most absurd and stupidest thing you could ever say. And even to compare him to Brett Bielema. Folks, Sam Pittman's a better coach than Brett Bielema. He is. He's not perfect. He's got flaws. We know that. But to act like this was the worst thing that's ever happened and Sam Pittman just needs to be fired on the spot, it's ludicrous. It's insane. I still want to see the season play out. And if he doesn't get the job done, he doesn't get the job done. We move on. We find somebody else. But none of y'all had Arkansas winning this game before the season started. None of y'all said Arkansas was going to beat LSU before the season started. I didn't. And even going into this game, you for sure said Arkansas wasn't going to win. But then when they go into the game and they do play well enough, they don't get the win. I'm not about moral victories either. But to look at what they did against LSU and say now, even more so than what you were last week, to fire Sam Pittman and how he's terrible, how awful it is, and this is Chad Morris 2.0, is just insane. I don't accept moral victories either. None of us do. That's not how it's measured. But I do accept the expectations I set for this team. And my expectations, as I said 8-4, 9-3. I did not expect them to lose to BYU. That's huge. They got to make up for it somewhere. But I don't think anybody had Arkansas beating LSU for the season or anything. There's a lot of season in front of them. There's a lot of winnable games. And you know what? If he doesn't get it done, then let's have a conversation. But I still believe in the next 8 games, when you just got done playing your toughest opponent that you played to the very end, who's to say that Arkansas can't reel off a lot of great wins and have a great season at the end? That's all I'm saying. So get out of here with this Chad Morris comparison or how horrible it is. Stop. It's not great. You need to win. We know. We all agree on that. But the doomsday scenario thing just gets really old. That's all my point. We're going to get to your comments, folks. I know there's a lot of them are chiming in, and I'm going to try to read through all of them and get to them to the best of my ability. So let's make that happen. But first, before we do that, I know that we got to thank always our great sponsors here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. And the first one, of course, being LinkedIn, because every new day, there's always new potential hires that can really feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. That's why you want to be 100% right that you're having access to the best qualified candidates, right? At least it's easier said than done. So that's what LinkedIn Jobs does for you, and it helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you do is go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege, and then you add your job to the purple hashtag hiring frame for your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize and who you'd like to interview and who you'd like to hire. That's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus their leading competitors. And with LinkedIn Jobs, they help you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster and for free. So head over to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so continuing on with the Razorback devotional today, as it's a longer of a podcast and a little bit of a live stream. So we're going to get through some of your comments too and respond to the ones that we can make work. And again, I'll try to get to as many of them as I possibly can, but sometimes it could be a little bit more difficult when it gets pretty flooded in. But appreciate everybody watching in and checking it out too. Actually, we got some good amount of views here on this podcast, but was expecting even more than what we had last week. But last week, I think people were even more mad. Hey, that's what it is. The madder you get, the more you want to watch. But that's fine with me. All right, let's see. Connor says, we made some serious unacceptable mistakes, but we can be proud of the team and the way they played last night. They fought and had a chance to win. Tired of all the BS slander. See, that's where I'm at, Connor. You know, like I'm not going to be mad at any fan that's upset. Like, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong for being upset. But this idea that you can still find some positives to look into a game, even though you lost it just by this much, and there were some crucial mistakes, like that's not a bad thing. Like if Arkansas, like if I told, like, is anybody feeling like Arkansas has no chance against A&M or Ole Miss or even Alabama? Alabama's not good. I'm not saying Arkansas is going to win, but that offense for Alabama, they don't have a quarterback. This might be the best chance that you could beat. Again, if Arkansas plays what they did last night, and they just eliminate a few of the penalties and be able to punch it in the red zone, Arkansas doesn't lose another SEC game. I don't think that's that crazy of a comment. Easier said than done, and I'm not saying they're going to, but to act like last night was the most egregious thing you've ever seen in Razorback football, then we got to lay off the sauce. Cheesy Skull says, we mismanage our timeouts badly. Yeah. I mean, that's really what it comes down to is mismanaging those timeouts because it was bad. It was very bad. Which is so annoying too, because it's like, I can get down with, you know, having bad moments. Like, and not every coach is going to be perfect, right? Like, I can get down with, you know, certain mistakes here and there, but I can't get down with the timeout deal. And it wasn't even just a Sam Pittman thing, because I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's Sam Pittman, you're an idiot," blah blah blah. You know, again, we don't know for certain, but I also believe a lot of them was on KJ. Because even Sam Pittman was getting mad at him about stuff. So I think it's a joint effort. I don't think it was just Sam Pittman being like, well, they're just going to take no time out. And then this happens. Like, I don't think it was that simple. I think it was a lot more to it than anything like that. So yeah, that's the thing. But you can't have that. Can't have that. Sorry, I'm tweeting out another link to this just to get everybody involved. I forgot to do that. So bear with me. Telling you, multitasking on this thing is always a lot of fun. All right. Sam says, okay, this is a great question. Sam says, should they have let them score at the end? I've seen this a lot of times too. And honestly, my answer is I at the time I wanted them to let them score, but also I get why they didn't. You know, like you never want a team to try to, you know, give up a touchdown or give up scoring. You never want to see that. But I also believe with no timeouts left, I think it's easier to just say to let them score, because who's to say that if you let them run through you, they don't just, you know, jump down on the ground and it doesn't matter. You may have a better chance of actually like blocking an extra or a field goal or something going wrong with the field goal or maybe getting a fumble, something to that extent. I think it's about a philosophy, but I didn't find that as egregious as a lot of people did. Obviously, you know, it's always hindsight, but I just didn't find it as egregious as some people did. Let's see. Mediocre backpacker. Love the name. Play calling on offense, no trust in the players. I don't see that necessarily as the case. I think that you're starting to see the trust develop between both sides a lot more. I thought like last night, I think KJ trusted his instincts a lot more because I think Dan Enos, and maybe they did at halftime where they're like, hey, dude, just like we got plays that we want you to run these plays, but just go to be KJ. And it clicked. So I thought that was really good. But I don't know. I thought the play calling was fine. I thought the offense was much better. Far and away much better. That pick KJ threw was pretty brutal. Like that was nothing frustrating, man. Dwight McLaughlin had a great pick against Jaden Daniels, and then the very next play, Arkansas throws it away for another pick. So that was really annoying. But I thought the play calling was fine. Justin says, can you agree that Sam Pittman had a different energy that pumped up his Hogs as well? I mean, yeah, to an extent. You know, I think energy is a lot of times maybe overblown or overshadowed. Maybe people make a lot bigger deal out of it than what they should. But overall, I thought it was pretty all right. I mean, I thought that to get the guys ready after that demoralizing loss at home, to them to go out there and perform as well as they did especially in the beginning. There's a good culture of this team. That's really what it comes down to. The culture is there. That The want to is there. The effort is there. These guys play hard all the time. That's great. They got to finish, and that's great. But I don't ever have any sort of judgments or anything about Sam Pittman's ability to get the guys going and to get the guys playing. JR says the inability to play 2 complete halves has haunted us week in and week out. Penalties, timeout, mismanagement, red zone mishaps, secondary gaps a Mack truck can drive through, and our conundrum of the 9th degree. Yeah, I know. Like, that's the problem. The secondary gaps, yeah, it was a little bit bad. Like, I think was it Singletary? Like, see, I felt bad for Singletary because he got burned on a few times from Malik Nabors, but man, maybe it's just my glass half full. But it was just like, dude, I think it's just also Nabors is a really good freaking wide receiver. It's like, I mean, like, how many times would you get mad at someone not guarding Traylon Burks? Like, like someone was opposing teams, how frustrated, like, how come he can't guard Traylon Burks? Like, well, because he's really, really good. I think it's a big part of it too. I think it can be both. I think it was a big part of it. Chris says, I feel more confident about beating Texas A&M. I do too. That game's stupid though, and always has the stupidest things showing up at random times. But yeah, that's gonna be annoying. Let's see. Justin also says when Tyrone Broden gets some more catches, he's going to be dangerous. Yeah, that dude's 6'7". Yeah, get him more involved. I think they did really good at getting him more involved too. Connor says Pittman is still developing as a head coach. I still need to remember where we were when he got here and look forward to the big picture. That's the optimist in me, but still. I mean, yeah, I believe so, but also it's year 4, like you gotta, like, it's been 4 years. You gotta figure out the basics. The timeout management, the penalty stuff. Yeah, I'm not saying it's all on Sam Pittman, but the buck stops with him. And so they got to figure that out. Also, can we talk about the fact that, the officiating wasn't terrible, but like what was it? The sack that KJ got on him, like where it was 3rd down play, the LSU defensive lineman, his helmet comes off. He makes a sack. He's trying to get back up and he shoves KJ to the ground and no penalty was called. That was dumb. That was absurd. But I also feel like Arkansas kind of got bailed out on that final penalty or close to the end of the penalty that they got. I forgot which one was that? It was was it pass interference maybe? Yeah, it was a little like, no, it was the roughing the passer. It's kind of like, yeah, but no, that was just one thing that really made me upset. Let's see. JR says A&M is altogether a different team. Bobby Petrino OC, different atmosphere, location, whole set of new priorities to deal with. We didn't win. So all were right in our loss prediction. It's true. That is true. Justin says Brian Kelly said in his press conference they didn't want to give the Hogs the ball back at all. He wasn't going to go in and score. Yeah, I believe that. Landon says, looking at his A&M a must-win game for Arkansas. Well, we've done this podcast so many times of, like, that's the game every single year that makes the difference in the Razorback football season. The times that Arkansas has beaten Texas A&M since they started playing every year, they had 8 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins, and 9 wins. So those are the 4. And the times they didn't beat A&M, they didn't have those years. So, yeah. I don't call it a must-win, though. I felt like in this 4-game stretch, if you could go 2-2, it'd be great. But that's the thing. So what sucks is, like, losing to BYU has screwed everything up. Like, if you beat BYU and you lost the game the way you did, I don't think anybody's mad. Or, like, I mean, they're maybe a little frustrated, but it's like, okay, well, hey, you still got some really great things going. Like, I don't think that'd be the case. But, yeah, that just sucks. But, yeah, A&M's the biggest game every single year. Andrew says, we need Rocket back. Defense has got to step up on 2 drives. Has is a dog, and we could go 8-5. Yeah, Rockets, man, I don't know what's going on with him. Hopefully we have an update. It kind of makes me nervous that he hasn't. It's still swelling and still a problem. I'm like, man, at what point in time was it? Because at first it sounded like it was just well, it'd be all right. It's all good. Just a little flare up. They'll be fine. And now it's like, okay, bro, it's like we're starting into the SEC slate. Shouldn't you find ways to get this going a little bit? Shouldn't you find a way to come back? Not that the running backs have been awful for Arkansas, but it's like there's a reason why Rocket is Rocket. Man, maybe it'd be nice to get him back for A&M. But yeah, they got to get him back. Defense got to step on big drives. I agree. I want to see him get involved more. He's now become a target, though. He's now become somebody that people are going to have to be on the lookout for, which is going to open up everybody else. But that dude, yeah, you can see why he was regarded as one of the best tight ends. And I'll say we can go 8-4 or 8-5. Yeah. I mean, there's nobody in the SEC ever left on the schedule that I look at that I'm like, oh, yeah, it's definitely a loss. Like even Alabama. Again, I'm not saying they'll win, but to act like they're the Alabama of old, it's a lot different. It's a totally different thing. Let's see. We'll do one more and we'll do another live read and we'll come back and have some more comments. So keep the comments coming though, folks. Keep them coming if you got any questions or anything you want to say, because you guys have been pretty well behaved this time around. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Let's see. MC says, even in the Petrino years, it took the first few weeks before the offense really got going. Got to clean up penalties and continue to improve on the offensive line and get Rocky back where you're going to be dangerous. I mean, there's a good chance of that. There's a good chance of that. The problems are fixable for this team. They just got to actually fix them. Stop beating yourself. Stop being the problem. Stop being the issue. That's all we got to ask for. Keep those comments coming, folks, for sure. Now is the time for the game changer of the week, though. That's brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company, much like Luke has. That dude was incredible for Arkansas in this game. Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, which is kind of a crazy thing when you think about it, about having non-alcoholic beer that actually pretty much tastes really good. And I mean, it's almost a thing that doesn't even exist. Like, who would have thought that'd be the case? But they have definitely done a game-changing deal. And they also have full flavor that are well-crafted, full-strength beer. And Luke is definitely the guy that deserves that primetime game player of the week. So you can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers, you can use promo code LOCKEDON, and you get 15% off your first online order. That's LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off athleticbrewing.com. New beer, exclusions, and conditions do apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so let's continue on here with the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, getting more of your comments, keeping those coming. Again, appreciate everybody who's watching in and doing a part of the live stream. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube if you could. Really appreciate it. Be sure to hit that like button and hit that bell to make sure you're notified of all the times we go live. You know, all that other YouTube jargon stuff that they always talk about. Let's see. Justin says, after talking about analytics, that fake field goal was on time. Yeah, that fake field goal was awesome. It's so dumb, though, that Arkansas converted the fake field goal and then ended up kicking a field goal the same drive anyways that was further back than what the fake ended up being. So that was dumb. But what a great play call. And that was really cool to see Max Fletcher just get so fired up on the sidelines. He's had a rough go, but he had one great punt. He only punted once, but it was a great one too. So I love that. Was it Tesoro, I guess? I don't know. What big boneheaded play we inevitably have against the Aggies to turn the whole game into their favor. Happens every year but 2021. Yeah, I know. It happens every single time. I wish I could sit here and say that, oh, no, this is different. No, it's not different. Like, the way that game goes and the unique ways that team finds ways to lose that game is absurd and dumb. It's so dumb. Kevin says, 4 years is long enough. They are regressing. You are what your record says you are, and Pittman is a 500 coach. I'd like to return to the 60s when they competed in national championships. Well, yeah, Kevin, we'd all like to return to competing for national championships. But, you know, I want to see the season play out. I've said this before. You can be upset and everything. And, you know, there may be some truth to what you're saying. But I still want to see how the season plays out. Because if Arkansas finds a way to reel off some nice wins, some wins maybe people aren't expecting them to win, or, be like, let me put this what if scenario out for you, okay? It's a what if scenario. It is. It's a what if scenario. But what if Arkansas beat A&M and Ole Miss and Alabama? What if they won the next 3 games? How would you feel? How would you feel about Sam Pittman? I think most people would be like, oh, holy crap. Okay, yeah, they got it figured out. Good job. That's how most people would feel. At least that's the way you should feel. I'm not saying they will, but it's possible. So that's where you just got to let the season play out. If Arkansas ends up going 6-6 or something like that, then by all means, get out the pitchforks and get hacked. But I still want to see how this season plays out. There's not a game on the schedule that I don't believe Arkansas can have a chance to win. Alabama's your toughest opponent left, just because it's still Alabama. But if they're with their offense and how bad it's been, they'll probably get it figured out once they play Arkansas, because that's the way it goes. Like, Ole Miss doesn't scare me. I mean, for crying out loud, you've owned Ole Miss pretty much, since Lane Kiffin's been there. The only year you lost was just an incredible back and forth game. A&M, you can win. Like Florida, I know they're good. They were at least better, but you can still beat them. Auburn looks terrible. Mississippi State looks terrible. Missouri, whatever, but it's just like, because who knows what they're going to look like. I'm surprised they haven't given another extension to old, Bucktooth Doofus or whatever his name is. So, anyways, my point is that there's still a lot of season left. Let's let the season play out. And then once it's concluded, let's have a conversation about futures. Let's do it that way. Carl says, KJ rolled out of the pocket more. Was it all by design or his skill set? I think it was by design, because last week, I believe Sam Pittman talked about how him and Enos and the offense, they got together with KJ and they were going to try to alleviate a lot of the pass rush by having KJ be out of the pocket more, because with the offensive line, the issues that they struggled with, they were trying to get him more involved in that regard. So I think it was more by design that they set it up to say, all right, let's make this work. Let's try to get him more comfortable. Let's try to get him in a good position. Let's try to make it a lot easier on him too. Wayne says, do you feel like they should use Satania on the field more? Yeah, that's another thing too, is I didn't hear anybody talking about Satania this time around. And I like Satania, I really do. And I wanted to see him more. But if the offense is doing some good things, especially in the passing game, then that's fine, which they did. I mean, I didn't have any problems with the passing game. And the fact that KJ was having a bunch of different targets is great. So it's not all I'm against using Satania, but in this particular game especially, they had some good things going. Let's see, Andrew says, got to keep our heads up. We still got a chance to win in the SEC. Do you think LSU is the hardest game we have? Yes, I said that before, Andrew. I think you just played the toughest game in the SEC you ever had. You have this year. I believe that. And you went toe-to-toe with them. But I know I got to keep reiterating the fact I'm not saying Arkansas is going to win all the rest of their SEC games. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you that I don't look at the rest of the SEC slate and say, oh, yeah, these are impossible games. Like, I just don't see that right now. Like, who's good right now? Seriously, who is good in the SEC? Georgia's even look kind of like, they're winning, but they're, I mean, if LSU's the second best, like, who's good? I don't know. I mean, is Ole Miss good? Is A&M good? Is Tennessee good? Is South Carolina good? I don't know who's good. I have no idea who's good. Ken says, I think we did pretty good last night, besides the penalties, obviously. But the question is, do you think Pittman is the guy to get us to a national championship one day, such as as next year? Wow, that's a big, loaded question. I'll say this, Ken, just because of how difficult it is to, and I mean this with nothing but love. Arkansas is a place that is really tough to win a national championship in football in. It's just a fact. It's a fact. I've embraced that fact. Now, it's not to say that we can't expect greatness. It's not to saying that we can't expect success at all. But just knowing how difficult it is, comparatively speaking, to win a national championship at Arkansas, it's tough. That being said, though, once the college football playoff expands to 12 teams, that's the best thing that could ever happen to Arkansas, a place like Arkansas. And if they do that, then if they've just found a way to get into the playoff, then anything's possible. I believe Sam Pittman, I know this is like a cop-out answer. I want to see how the season plays out. Give me till the end of the season, and then I can tell you. If Arkansas goes 6-6, 7-5, then no. I'm not going to feel great about, him taking you to the next level. But if they do some really good things and they get better and they improve as the year goes on and they get stronger and figure some things out, and they end with a 8-4, 9-3 season, maybe, which is still plausible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's plausible. If they do that, then yeah. But I just, year 4, we got to see this happen. And right now, year 4 has not got off to the best start, to say the least. It just sucks, though, too, because we're a third of the way through the college football season. It sucks. It's sad, but it's true. William says, what's the fix for the secondary? Man, I thought that The secondary has played good for the most part this year. I just, again, chalk it up to them going up against a great offense and a great passing game. Not saying that they're elite, but they're better. They're improved. And the run defense is really good. The defense is improved. They had a bad second half against LSU, but I still think they're an improved unit that can do enough to win you some games. I really believe that. Now let's see what they do against A&M, because A&M, Bobby Petrino is going to have that offense rolling. So let's see what we do with that, and then we can start making judgments. But I still think the defense is improved. They're good enough to win games. They just got to figure out a way to get off the field in seriously clutch situations. Eric says, I seriously feel like we could win out if we fix the dang penalties. Buddy, my man, I love the optimism, but jeez. I don't even, if you play, I'll give you this. If you play like you did last night and you don't have the penalties, if you cut the penalties in half in each and every game, and you also punch it in the red zone on first and goal situations, you will more than likely win all of your games, if not like all but one. If you do that, if you play like that, if you make those two things, which is easier said than done, but if you cut the penalties in half and you punch it in on first and goal for touchdowns, yeah, you could win them all. You could win the rest of them. JR says, reality check time. Put the penalty guys on the bench the next game. Yeah, but then who are you going to put in? Some of those penalties against Luke has, and he was a freshman, so that's frustrating. But the offensive line still had, the false starts. That was a problem. So, yeah, I don't think it's just as easy as I'll put him on the bench, because I saw somebody saying, just make them run gassers. Have them do bear crawls at practice. I mean, I don't know what's the fix for that. I don't think it's just as simple as just like, you gotta go over there and do some conditioning. Now, I'll get them to stop jumping off sides. I don't think it's as simple as that. But that's why they don't pay me $5 million a year. That's the coaches are for. So you guys figure it out. Y'all figure out how to do this stuff. I don't know how else to figure it out or to do it. Let's see, mediocre backpacker says, Arkansas loses to the teams they should beat and lose to the teams they shouldn't, just part of being a Razorback fan. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of teams do that in general, if you think about it. I mean, maybe not all the national championship teams, but how many times do you see those happen where upsets happen in college football? It happens a lot. I think Arkansas for sure should have beaten BYU. BYU lost to Kansas. I feel like that's going to be the game that's probably going to be the game that comes back to haunt this team. How stupid would it be if Arkansas went 6-2 or 7-1 in SEC play this year? They had a chance to maybe go to a New Year's Six bowl, but that stupid BYU game is going to keep them out of it. That would be annoying. I'm not going to know how to pronounce your name. I guess it's Tersuro. I'm just going to read what you have to say. It says, John, did you pay attention to the play call in the first quarter when we had 3rd and goal from the half-yard line? Another in around instead of a sneak, resulting in another false start. Well, at least KJ was under center, so that was positives. We used to say the play wouldn't have worked out if the false start having happened. We get all be hindsight. I'm not saying it was the right call, but at least he's under center. They got to figure out how to stop those things, man. They're killing themselves in it. They're killing themselves. Leon says we didn't get 2 touchdowns because of penalties. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all encompassing. If you get to the goal line, if you get to the 1st and goal thing, then you got to find a way to make it to get into the end zone. Got to find a way. That's what good teams do. Good teams cannot afford to have those stupid things happening all the time. And it's happening too much for Arkansas. It's so dumb. So dumb. Cam Little was really good. Went 3 for 3, so good for Cam. Trying to think of any other little notes that I meant to bring up. Let's see. Just going through the box scores and the stats. See what else is here on the mix. Mention the penalties. Kickoff finish, yeah. Time of possession was in Arkansas's favor for 34 minutes, so that's good. Oh yeah, so this is another thing too. Think this is kind of a crazy deal, folks. Really, Arkansas went 8 for 13 on 3rd downs in this game. 8 for 13. That's impressive. And I believe they did something similar against that to BYU. So, silver linings and all, but Arkansas is really good in third down conversion, at least have been for the past 2 games. So that's good. Let's see. Arkansas did get that 2-point conversion. It was a great play. It's a great play there. Jaheim Thomas, 13 tackles for him. It was nice. Let's see. Walcott, Chris Pupal, Hudson Clark. Hudson Clark, I think, had a pretty good game. Dwight McLaughlin had a good game. Said Singletary, it was tough on him. Snacks Johnson had a couple of breakdowns too. But I thought Jalen Braxton had a great pass breakup late in the game. Great. And yeah, that's a true freshman. A great pass breakup out of him. Let's see. Harold Perkins only had 1 sack. Oh, so that's progress from last year. The guy is just stupidly doing everything. So, yeah. Folks, it comes down to this, and we can end on this. I know we've been going for about 45 minutes. And again, appreciate each and every one of you watching in and all your comments and all that stuff. But we'll end on this. Listen, against Texas A&M coming up, we'll have the podcast to break it down and getting through some stuff with that too. And we know that Petrino is going to have some good things for the offense ready to go against Arkansas. And I think A&M's defense has got some weaknesses that Arkansas can possibly exploit and all of that. So, there's different ways that, we can look at it positively or negatively. I think Arkansas's opened as a 4-point underdog, if I'm not mistaken, to Texas A&M. But here's the deal. Arkansas has got to get back into the practices and try to get back into the things to where they can fix some of the issues that they have. Because I keep going back to it. They're fixable issues. I still have belief in this team. I still have belief that this team can win a bunch of games. I have belief in that. But the last thing I want this season to be is similar to what it was last year. When you look back upon the season and you ended up losing 5 or 6 games and you combine the point totals by a total of like 20 points. I don't want that again. No one wants that again. Sam Pittman doesn't want that. This team doesn't want it. The players don't want it. That stuff needs to stop, and it needs to be fixed, and they got to figure it out. They got to figure it out at the end. But I will be always feeling good that this team is going to give it their all. And that's a good sign for a team that does have issues and does have problems, that even with those issues and even with those problems and even with those shortcomings, they're still going out and giving it every single thing that they got. Nobody's giving up on them. They're not giving up on each other. The coaches aren't giving up on each other. There's no problems there. I still believe that they can do and accomplish a lot of good things this year. They got it. They're the ones that have to do it, though. Like I can be completely wrong about it. We all know that. That's what the predictions. Like I love how, because I saw some people getting after me because I predicted like a 9-3 season or whatever before the year starts. Like, well, first off, that's what predictions are about. Like there's people that predicted LSU would go undefeated. They didn't. Okay. There's people that were predicting that Alabama would win the SEC West. They don't look like they were going to win the SEC West this year. Okay. Predictions are predictions. But when it comes to the reality of the matter, you got to look at everything. You got to look at everything that Arkansas does and what they have and who they're going up against and who's their coaches and everything. I still like Sam Pittman. I still like this coaching staff. I still like this team. I like them. But they got to start doing the things themselves to keep them from being behind the 8 ball in these games. The SEC and everyone, no one's going to feel sorry for you. No one's going to bail you out. The officials are not going to bail you out every time. The other team's not going to bail you out every time. The other coaching staff's not going to bail you out every time. You got to fix the things that you can control. And when you fix those things, that's when you can take that next step. That's when you can be that team that everyone's expecting it to be. But maybe a big part of it is that the SEC looks weak, comparatively speaking. Looks about as weak as it's looked maybe ever, at least in the modern era of college football. Maybe that's where my hope resides, or maybe that's where I feel good about it. But if you can find a way to go down and beat A&M this weekend in Arlington and do it in a way that's like, I don't care how you do it. Just win. You do that, people are going to start coming back around. They're going to start feeling a lot better about it. They're going to start feeling like maybe, just maybe, This is a team that can put it together and find some great special way to do it. But we can't do it for you. I can't do it for you. As much as I try to talk you guys up, you guys are the ones that's going to have to prove yourselves. And that's what we're going to wait on. That's what we need to wait and see. This team is better in a lot of ways from last season, but there's still some things that they need to work on. But you can't feel sorry for yourself, and because nobody else is going to as well. I'm still encouraged. We'll see. Right now, I feel much better about this team than I did a week ago. So let's see what they're made of. Appreciate everybody listening in to the live stream here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.